My name is Tom Debevoise, and I'm the co-author of the Micro Guide to Process Modeling in BPMN, along with Rick Geneva from Intalio Software. Uh, Today, I want to talk about the participant and the pool and identifying the participant for your business process. And in doing so, we also want to cover some of the basic concepts that are laid out in the book and what we kind of tried to accomplish with our approach. First, if we look back at process modeling and its evolution from workflow and flow charting, flow charts essentially started in the 1920s, and they were an outgrowth of analyzing industrial flows and workflows in really functionally hierarchical organizations that had, again, a functional basis to their management structure, which means organizations would, in a batch mode or in a single functional area, create certain internal workflows to accomplish a part of the mission. But the revolution in business process management, of course, is that we create processes where everyone participates and accomplishes a goal that contributes to the objectives of the organization. So in the 60s, workflow really helped out those functionally organized corporations. But as all of the process movement has occurred, we really need an overhaul in our thinking. But that thinking, that workflow thinking, really is in a lot of the uh, methodologies that I still see out there, particularly with the analysis we see on some of the blogs on how you're supposed to be identifying the participant in the pool. So let's look at that one issue. There's the time off request, typical workflow. It's very simplistic here, where a participant, an employee fills out a form, submits it to the manager, and it goes to human resources, and the leave request is approved or denied. Um, well, we really are not using a very process-centric viewpoint with this workflow that we're describing here. And why? Because we haven't really isolated the activities to the point where the process goal is clear from this diagram. You know, there's a lot of interaction between managers and employees and human resources for a lot of different reasons. So this diagram is very generic, and I'll tell you why. But in order to say that, we should really look at the definition that we came up with for business process in the frame point of creating models in BPMN. A business process from a BPMN standpoint is a flow of decision-coordinated activities conducted by participants acting on data, information, and knowledge that reaches a goal. All right, so each one of these roles corresponds to shapes and patterns in your BPMN and identifies the specific role of that piece of your business process. Looking at a process participant, a process is an actor or someone who's contributing to that process goal. It can be a human, it can be a group of people, a group of systems, it can be equipment, any nature of things that contribute to that one process goal. But what would true process theoretic behavior be in terms of identifying a process goal? All right. We could start to try and solve the problem by taking that original request, time off request, and start to split out the employees. For instance, the employee can come out and it can be just an interaction with the private process as shown in this diagram. But why not? Why just the employee? Perhaps we should just do the manager and HR themselves. Maybe there should be 3 swim lanes. I don't think this is process thinking, right? And the reason I don't think it's process thinking is because we really haven't identified who's in charge of that process and what the goal is. This interaction between employee, manager, and HR is very generic. So, and there's not any really identifiable service, even from a SOA standpoint, that comes out of this type of analysis. So So while it's correct thinking to identify and isolate the employee, the manager, and HR, we're missing who's in charge of the process. So the process itself, we believe, should have some type of system process or a um, controlling authority that really shepherds the process from cradle to grave. Well, what are the benefits to this? All right, if we take that time off request and break it down to human resources manager, HR, and a process controlling authority, right, then you're going to find that it's much simpler to optimize and make changes to that process model. Right? If there's some type of flow that occurs in your optimization that can be improved over time, if you have taken that old workflow type of analysis of just breaking it out to the three different participants, you'll find that, and it's been our experience, that it gets very messy and you're going to have to do a lot of surgery. Whereas if you identify the process authority, the controlling authority for that leave request, all right, you will create a service that other components in your business process can use. So you can create a reusable time off or leave request process that could be used, say, for outsourced consultants and other uses, and it can be more generic, more reusable, and more streamlined. So in almost every case that we identify, when you're talking about a single process goal, whether it's a leave request or order to cash or maintenance management, usually there's what I call a process focus or controlling authority process lane that really handles and holds the shape and the timing and the sequence and all of the services that one process identifies. And what I'm suggesting is that you do that early on. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of diagrams that have very generic kind of flows where you can't really identify what that process is doing other than communicating among a bunch of participants. So in chapter 4 of the book, we briefly covered some of the process patterns that we see over and over again. And this leave request or time off request kind of identified the need for this looping approval process pattern. And what a looping approval process pattern means is that generally any request, revision, control that occurs really needs some type of feedback loop so that information can be corrected back to the employee, to the manager, to HR. So for instance, it'd be easy to say, if we look at this older solution, what happens if the employee requests time when it's a critical point in the workday and we need to have that employee there. So he's going to revise the leave request and send it back to the employee. So we can see this simple pattern really isn't adequate. So we don't really need to spend a lot of time analyzing this deeply. Look at the looping approval if you're looking at a request, authorization, revision, any type of tracking and correction type of interaction in your process goal. And you can adapt this process early on. It doesn't have to be exactly correct, but the basic nature is there. And you'll be able to get to your an executable process much faster. You can learn more about our training and offerings on this blog, tomdebevoise.com, or you can go to BPM Certified Expert where we have training, and of course the book is available. Thank you for your time.